Welcome back to Stoic Wisdomtv. Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, you are always one step behind in deciphering the true meaning behind a woman's words and actions? Don't worry, you are neither crazy nor alone in this journey. The truth is, most men don't really understand how women think. But what sets successful men apart from those who constantly struggle? It is understanding. Because psychology never lies, and neither does reality. Women do not act randomly or arbitrarily. Every action and reaction they have stems from instincts shaped over thousands of years of evolution, social influences, and deep emotions. The fascinating thing is that sometimes even they cannot explain why they behave a certain way. If you don't understand how this game operates, you become a part of it without even realizing it. But don't worry, knowledge is power. Since ancient times, Stoic philosophers have recognized this truth. They did not allow themselves to be deceived by illusions. Instead, they saw through the world's true nature, focused on reality, and mastered their own emotions. Today, we will uncover 29 psychological truths about women that most men have never realized. Once you understand these, you will gain an entirely new perspective on women, how they think and act in everyday life. 1. Kissing is not only romantic but also a natural pain reliever. From a Stoic perspective, the idea that kissing is not just romantic, it is a natural pain reliever can be analyzed in terms of human nature, emotional regulation, and the pursuit of eudaimonia, flourishing through rational living. Stoicism teaches us to understand our emotions, control our reactions, and align our actions with reason and virtue. Kissing, when viewed through this lens, is not merely an act of affection but a phenomenon deeply tied to our physiology and psychology, reinforcing the interconnectedness of the body and mind. One of the core principles of Stoicism is the idea that external events are neither inherently good nor bad, but our perception of them shapes our experiences. Kissing, in its essence, is a physical act that can trigger a cascade of biological responses, including the release of oxytocin, dopamine, and endorphins. These chemicals not only enhance feelings of connection and affection but also serve as natural analgesics, reducing physical and emotional pain. A Stoic might recognize this as a testament to the natural harmony of the universe, where actions aligned with human connection bring about physical and psychological well-being. Furthermore, Stoicism places great emphasis on understanding human nature and acting in accordance with it. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently reflected on the social nature of human beings, emphasizing that we are designed to live in harmony with one another. Kissing, as an expression of love, trust, and connection, aligns with this social nature. It is a practice that fosters unity and reinforces bonds, which, in turn, contribute to a well-ordered and rational life. While Stoics advocate for emotional temperance, they do not deny the importance of positive relationships. Instead, they encourage individuals to engage in relationships with wisdom and self-awareness. At the same time, Stoicism warns against becoming enslaved by physical pleasures. While kissing may serve as a natural pain reliever, a Stoic would caution against becoming overly attached to the pleasure it brings. The key is to recognize its role in human interaction without letting it dictate one's state of mind. Epictetus reminds us that we must remain in control of our desires rather than be controlled by them. If one relies too heavily on external sources such as physical affection to find relief from suffering, they risk falling into a cycle of dependency that erodes inner tranquility. Instead, a Stoic would appreciate kissing for what it is, a natural and beneficial act that fosters connection while maintaining an inner sense of equanimity. Additionally, the Stoic concept of amor fati, or the love of fate, encourages individuals to embrace the natural workings of the universe without resistance. If kissing has the ability to alleviate pain, it should be recognized as part of the human experience rather than something to be resisted or excessively pursued. A balanced approach acknowledges the benefits of affection while ensuring that one's happiness does not hinge upon it. In conclusion, from a Stoic perspective, kissing is more than a mere act of romance. It is a reflection of the natural world's design, demonstrating how human connection fosters well-being. While it serves as a natural pain reliever, wisdom lies in recognizing its value without becoming dependent on it. True peace and contentment come not from external pleasures but from a disciplined and rational mind. 2. 95% of women get turned on when men suck their fingers. From a Stoic perspective, the idea that 95% of women are aroused when men suck their fingers can be analyzed in terms of human nature, self-control, and the importance of understanding biological and psychological triggers without becoming enslaved by them. Stoicism teaches individuals to recognize natural human impulses while maintaining rational mastery over their actions and desires. This perspective allows one to acknowledge the reality of attraction without being controlled by it. At its core, Stoicism encourages a rational approach to human interactions, including those of a romantic or intimate nature. The fact that such a high percentage of women respond to this specific action suggests that human attraction operates on both conscious and subconscious levels. The physical sensation, combined with psychological associations of trust, vulnerability, and dominance, likely contributes to this response. However, a Stoic would view this as part of nature rather than something to be excessively pursued or obsessed over. One of the key tenets of Stoicism is emotional self-regulation. While natural attraction and arousal exist, the Stoic approach would caution against allowing these responses to dictate one's behavior. Epictetus taught that external events and stimuli are not inherently good or bad. Rather, it is our interpretation and reaction to them that define their significance. If a man recognizes that such a simple action has a profound effect, he must decide whether to engage in it mindfully or to become consumed by the pursuit of physical pleasure. Marcus Aurelius often emphasized that human beings are social creatures, meant to live in harmony with one another. Relationships, including romantic ones, should be built on mutual respect, wisdom, and virtue rather than fleeting moments of pleasure. A Stoic man would not use this knowledge manipulatively but rather as a means to deepen a genuine connection with his partner. The goal is not to exploit desire but to cultivate meaningful relationships based on trust and understanding. Additionally, Stoicism warns against becoming enslaved by bodily pleasures. While certain actions may elicit strong responses, true mastery of oneself comes from controlling desires rather than being ruled by them. Seneca argued that wisdom lies in moderation, where one neither suppresses nor overindulges in physical pleasures. If a man allows his pursuit of intimate stimulation to override reason, he risks losing his inner equilibrium. Furthermore, amor fati, or the love of fate, suggests that human attraction is a natural phenomenon to be acknowledged rather than resisted. However, a Stoic accepts these realities without becoming dependent on them. A man who understands attraction through a Stoic lens remains composed, never letting momentary pleasures distract from his greater purpose in life. In conclusion, while the statistic that 95% of women are aroused by finger-sucking is an interesting insight into human psychology, a Stoic would approach this knowledge with wisdom and restraint. Attraction is a natural part of human existence, but true strength lies in maintaining control over one's desires. A Stoic does not chase validation through physical actions but instead cultivates relationships built on deeper, lasting virtues. Mastering oneself is the ultimate goal, ensuring that external pleasures never dictate one's internal state of peace and contentment. 3. Those who deceive always believe that others are deceiving as well. From a Stoic perspective, the idea that those who deceive always believe that others are deceiving as well can be understood through the lens of projection, moral character, and self-mastery. Stoicism teaches us that our perceptions of others often reflect our own internal state, and this phenomenon of psychological projection aligns with the Stoic emphasis on self-awareness and virtue. One of the central tenets of Stoicism, as emphasized by Marcus Aurelius in Meditations, is that our judgments about others often say more about us than about them. If a person assumes that everyone else is dishonest, it is likely because they themselves are familiar with deception. Their worldview is shaped by their own moral compass, or lack thereof. Instead of seeing people as they truly are, they project their own tendencies onto the world. In this way, their perception is not an objective reality but a reflection of their own ethical shortcomings. Epictetus reminds us that we should not concern ourselves with the actions of others but rather focus on our own integrity. A Stoic individual does not assume the worst in others simply because they have encountered deception. Instead, they evaluate character through actions rather than assumptions. A person who is grounded in virtue understands that while deceit exists in the world, it is not universal. To assume that all people are deceivers is to let cynicism cloud one's perception, an obstacle that prevents the cultivation of genuine relationships. Moreover, the Stoics emphasized the importance of self-mastery. Those who deceive others often live in a state of fear and paranoia, constantly worried that they themselves will be deceived. Seneca taught that a life ruled by fear is a life unfulfilled. A dishonest person's distrust of others does not stem from wisdom but from a fractured conscience. The person who deceives must always be on guard, knowing that their own manipulative nature leaves them vulnerable to the same treatment. In contrast, a Stoic, who prioritizes honesty and virtue, does not carry this burden. They live with tranquility, unshaken by the fear of betrayal because they themselves do not engage in deceit. Additionally, Stoicism teaches that one must accept the reality of human nature without being controlled by it. While some people are dishonest, a Stoic does not waste time worrying about deception. Instead, they focus on their own ethical standards, maintaining their commitment to truthfulness regardless of external circumstances. As Epictetus advised, we should not be disturbed by the faults of others but should use them as reminders to strengthen our own character. In conclusion, the belief that those who deceive always believe others are deceiving is a product of a guilty conscience and an untrained mind. A Stoic approach would be to recognize this as a flaw in perception, not a universal truth. True wisdom lies in understanding human nature while maintaining personal integrity. Instead of allowing cynicism to dictate their worldview, a Stoic chooses to lead by example, practicing virtue in all dealings and remaining steadfast in their pursuit of truth. In doing so, they achieve the ultimate freedom, a life unburdened by deceit, fear, and suspicion. 4. Men are attracted to women who radiate confidence. From a Stoic perspective, the idea that men are attracted to women who radiate confidence can be understood through the lens of self-mastery, inner virtue, and the nature of attraction beyond superficial appearances. Confidence, when rooted in genuine self-assurance rather than arrogance or external validation, aligns with Stoic principles of self-sufficiency and personal strength. Stoicism teaches that external beauty is fleeting and beyond our control, while inner character is something we can cultivate. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations that we should not be distracted by surface-level appearances but rather seek substance. A woman who radiates confidence does so not because she conforms to external standards of beauty but because she has cultivated a deep sense of self-worth. This self-assurance is attractive because it signifies independence, emotional stability, and a mind that is not easily swayed by the opinions of others. In contrast, insecurity, which manifests as excessive need for approval or validation, signals instability, which can be unattractive because it reflects a lack of inner control. Moreover, Epictetus emphasized that we must not be disturbed by things outside our control but instead focus on our own thoughts and actions. A confident woman embodies this principle by not allowing societal expectations or external pressures to dictate her sense of self. She does not seek validation but instead holds firm to her values and beliefs. This kind of unwavering self-possession naturally commands respect and admiration, making her presence compelling and magnetic. In the realm of attraction, Stoicism also suggests that what truly draws people to each other is a shared sense of virtue and emotional equilibrium. Confidence, in its purest form, is a reflection of a disciplined mind, one that has embraced self-respect, purpose, and a deep understanding of one's worth. A woman who is confident does not seek to manipulate or impress through superficial means. Instead, she carries herself with a quiet strength that naturally draws people in. Seneca advised that true greatness comes from within, not from external recognition. When a woman embodies this principle, she is seen as strong and desirable not because she seeks attention but because she commands it effortlessly through her presence and actions. For men who adhere to Stoic philosophy, attraction to confidence is not just about finding a partner but about aligning with someone who reflects a similar mindset. A woman who is confident is not controlled by fleeting emotions, social approval, or external circumstances. Instead, she possesses a resilience that mirrors the Stoic ideal of tranquility and ability to remain unshaken by external chaos. This shared strength forms the foundation of a meaningful connection, one built not on superficial desire but on mutual respect and admiration. In conclusion, the Stoic view of attraction emphasizes substance over appearance, inner virtue over fleeting charm. A woman who radiates confidence embodies the principles of self-mastery, self-respect, and emotional stability, qualities that are inherently attractive to men who value strength and authenticity. In seeking connection, the wise man recognizes that true attraction is not found in external beauty alone but in the unwavering presence of a woman who knows her worth and stands firmly in it. 5. 7% of women have experienced an orgasm due to menstrual. The idea that 7% of women have experienced an orgasm due to menstrual cramps may seem surprising at first, but from a Stoic perspective, it highlights a fundamental truth about the human body and mind. Pain and pleasure are deeply interconnected, and our perception of them determines their impact on us. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot always control external circumstances such as physical pain, we can control how we respond to them. This principle applies to the way the body sometimes transforms pain into pleasure through physiological mechanisms beyond our conscious awareness. At its core, Stoicism emphasizes the power of perception. The Roman philosopher Epictetus famously stated, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." This concept applies directly to the phenomenon of experiencing pleasure from pain. Menstrual cramps are generally perceived as negative, yet in some cases, the body responds in an unexpected way. Instead of merely suffering through discomfort, the nervous system can rewire the experience into one of relief, even pleasure. This serves as a reminder that pain is not inherently bad, it is our reaction to it that defines our experience. Furthermore, Stoicism encourages us to see adversity as an opportunity for growth. The body's ability to turn pain into pleasure is a profound illustration of resilience. Just as the mind can be trained to endure hardship through discipline and rational thought, the body can adapt in ways that serve our well-being. This aligns with the Stoic belief that suffering is not merely to be endured but understood and, when possible, used to our advantage. If the body can spontaneously transform suffering into pleasure, What might the mind be capable of with intentional effort? Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, often wrote about accepting nature as it is, without resistance. He reminded himself, what stands in the way becomes the way. This principle suggests that obstacles, including pain, can be reframed as pathways to something greater. While menstrual cramps can be debilitating for many, this unusual physiological response demonstrates that nature operates in mysterious but often beneficial ways. Accepting this reality rather than resenting it aligns with the Stoic mindset of embracing what is beyond our control. The phenomenon also reflects the importance of balance between control and surrender. While we can influence our mental states through discipline, some aspects of our existence such as involuntary bodily responses are outside our direct control. Instead of resisting these experiences, Stoicism teaches us to accept them with equanimity. By understanding that pain and pleasure are not fixed, but fluid experiences, we cultivate a mindset of adaptability and strength. Ultimately, the ability of the body to turn menstrual pain into pleasure serves as a powerful Stoic lesson. Suffering is not absolute, and our ability to navigate it depends on perspective, resilience, and acceptance. The more we learn to embrace discomfort with wisdom and composure, the more we unlock hidden strengths within ourselves. Whether through physical endurance or mental fortitude, the Stoic path is one of transformation, turning challenges into triumphs and pain into power. 6. If your mind is constantly drifting elsewhere, there is an 85% chance you are unhappy with your life. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that true contentment comes from mastering our own minds and focusing on the present moment. If our thoughts constantly drift away, it is a strong indication that we are not satisfied with our current reality. According to psychological studies, there is an 85% likelihood that those who frequently lose themselves in daydreams or distractions are unhappy with their lives. The Stoics would argue that this tendency arises from a lack of inner discipline and an over-reliance on external circumstances for fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, emphasized the importance of keeping our thoughts in check and focusing on what we can control. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This principle is crucial in understanding why a wandering mind often signifies dissatisfaction. When we fail to take control of our thoughts, we allow them to be dictated by worries, regrets, and unfulfilled desires. We live in a state of constant longing, which prevents us from fully engaging with the present. A Stoic approach to countering this dissatisfaction is to practice mindfulness and deliberate focus. Instead of letting our minds drift to what we lack or what we fear, we should train ourselves to appreciate what we have. The practice of negative visualization, a Stoic exercise, encourages us to imagine losing the things we take for granted. This shifts our mindset from one of restlessness to one of gratitude and contentment. Furthermore, Epictetus taught that suffering does not come from external events but from our judgment of them. If our mind continually escapes reality, it means we are resisting what is. Rather than fleeing from discomfort, the Stoic response is to confront it, accept it, and find meaning within it. A disciplined mind does not need to escape because it finds peace within itself. In practical terms, those who find their minds drifting should take it as a call to action rather than a sign of inevitable discontent. They should examine their values, reassess their priorities, and focus on cultivating a sense of purpose. Engaging in meaningful activities, practicing gratitude, and embracing challenges as opportunities for growth are all ways to regain control over the wandering mind. Ultimately, a Stoic does not allow the mind to be a runaway horse, dragging them aimlessly through past regrets and future anxieties. Instead, they rein it in, training it to remain present, calm, and resilient. The ability to control one's thoughts is a fundamental aspect of inner peace, and it is within this control that true satisfaction in life is found. 7. Women are attracted to men who are real listeners. In the philosophy of Stoicism, the ability to truly listen is a mark of wisdom, patience, and self-control, qualities that naturally attract others, including women. Women are drawn to men who genuinely listen, not merely to respond, but to understand. This principle aligns with the Stoic belief that self-mastery and rational engagement with the world lead to meaningful relationships. A man who listens deeply demonstrates presence. He is not preoccupied with his own ego, waiting for his turn to speak, nor is he distracted by external concerns. Instead, he is engaged, receptive, and attuned to the emotions and thoughts of another person. This level of attentiveness signals strength, because only a disciplined mind can set aside its own desires and impulses to focus entirely on another individual. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, emphasized that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason to listen more and speak less. In relationships, this translates to an ability to foster trust, emotional security, and genuine connection, which women instinctively appreciate. Moreover, a man who listens well does not simply absorb words, he processes them with clarity and without judgment. Marcus Aurelius advised that we should train ourselves to see things as they are, rather than as we wish them to be. A man who listens with such Stoic objectivity understands a woman's needs, fears, and desires without distorting them through the lens of his own biases. This makes him a stable presence, one who is not easily swayed by fleeting emotions but who offers steadiness and thoughtful insight. Women are drawn to such men because they provide a sense of security and depth, rather than superficial charm or fleeting excitement. Furthermore, true listening is an act of humility. A Stoic man does not assume he knows everything. Instead, he approaches each interaction as an opportunity to learn and grow. Seneca taught that wisdom comes from recognizing how much we have yet to understand. A man who embodies this perspective shows that he values not only the woman in front of him but also the knowledge and insight she offers. This humility makes him approachable, respected, and deeply attractive. In contrast, Men who dominate conversations, interrupt frequently, or impose their opinions without considering others expose their lack of self-control. They reveal insecurity rather than strength. Women sense this imbalance and, as a result, are less likely to be drawn to them. A Stoic man, on the other hand, listens without the need to assert dominance. He finds power in restraint and influence in understanding. Ultimately, the ability to listen is not merely a skill but a reflection of a man's inner character. A man who truly listens does not seek validation, he does not react impulsively. He observes, understands, and responds with intention. In a world filled with noise, such a man stands out. Women are naturally drawn to him because he offers something rare: genuine attention, emotional depth, and unwavering presence. And in the realm of human connection, as the Stoics knew well, these qualities are among the most valuable. 8. Men need physical touch as much as women. Men need physical touch as much as women, a Stoic perspective. In a world that often equates masculinity with emotional detachment, the idea that men need physical touch as much as women is frequently overlooked. However, Stoic philosophy teaches us to recognize human nature as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. The need for physical touch is not a sign of weakness but a fundamental aspect of human connection, equally essential for both men and women. Understanding this truth allows men to develop emotional resilience and lead more fulfilling lives. Physical touch, whether through a hug, a reassuring pat on the back, or a simple hand on the shoulder, carries immense psychological and physiological benefits. Studies have shown that human touch releases oxytocin, the hormone responsible for bonding and emotional well-being. For men, who are often conditioned to suppress their emotional needs, physical contact serves as an unspoken form of reassurance, helping to relieve stress and foster connection. Stoicism does not advocate for the suppression of natural human needs but rather for their understanding and mastery. A Stoic man acknowledges his requirement for touch without being controlled by it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we should differentiate between what is within our control and what is not. While we cannot control how society views male vulnerability, we can control how we respond to this need within ourselves. Rather than shying away from physical intimacy out of fear of appearing weak, a Stoic man embraces it as a vital component of his well-being. He does not seek touch out of desperation but allows himself to experience and appreciate it without attachment. Moreover, physical touch strengthens relationships. Whether in romantic partnerships, friendships, or family bonds, touch serves as a silent language of trust and support. A handshake can communicate respect, a hug can express empathy, and a reassuring touch can alleviate anxiety. When men deny themselves this essential human connection, they risk emotional isolation. The ancient Stoics understood that human beings are social creatures, naturally designed to engage with others. While Stoicism promotes self-sufficiency, it does not advocate for complete isolation. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, emphasized the importance of harmony in human interactions, recognizing that we thrive not in solitude but in meaningful connections. The modern world often sends mixed signals about masculinity, encouraging strength while discouraging emotional openness. Yet, true strength lies in understanding and accepting oneself. A Stoic man does not suppress his need for physical connection, instead, he integrates it into his life with wisdom. He seeks meaningful touch not for external validation, but for the simple recognition that he, like every other human, is shaped by nature's design. In conclusion, the need for physical touch is universal, not bound by gender. For men, acknowledging this need is not an act of surrender but of self-awareness. Stoicism teaches us to embrace reality as it is and to master our responses to it. By understanding the power of touch, men can cultivate deeper relationships, maintain emotional balance, and navigate life with greater wisdom and strength. 9. Weak men talk too much. In the philosophy of Stoicism, strength is demonstrated through actions, not words. The notion that weak men talk too much aligns with the Stoic principle that true wisdom and power come from measured speech, self-control, and inner fortitude. A man who constantly speaks, boasts, or seeks validation through words is often compensating for a lack of true strength. This excessive talking is not a sign of confidence, but of insecurity, a mask that hides a fragile ego, an undisciplined mind, and an unstable sense of self-worth. The Stoics, including figures like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, emphasized the virtue of silence. They believed that speech should serve a purpose, to convey truth, to instruct, or to solve problems. Anything beyond this was deemed unnecessary and often harmful. Epictetus famously stated, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This highlights the importance of restraint, of observing and understanding rather than indulging in meaningless chatter. A man who speaks excessively often does so out of fear of being ignored, of being perceived as unimportant, or of confronting his own inadequacies. But in truth, the more he speaks without substance, the more he reveals his lack of wisdom. In contrast, strong men understand that power lies in silence and thoughtful speech. A man who knows his worth does not need to convince others of it. He lets his actions speak for him. When he does speak, his words carry weight because they are rare, intentional, and based on knowledge. He listens more than he talks, observing the world with a calm and rational mind, choosing his words carefully, and avoiding unnecessary conflicts or empty boasting. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, the ability to remain composed, to control one's impulses, and to communicate only when necessary. Moreover, talking too much is often a distraction from meaningful action. Weak men use words as a substitute for action. They promise, they explain, they complain, but they rarely do. A Stoic man, however, knows that actions define character far more than words ever could. He focuses on self-improvement, discipline, and responsibility rather than seeking validation through speech. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. This is the ultimate lesson for those who talk excessively. Stop speaking about who you are and start proving it through action. In conclusion, Stoicism teaches us that silence, restraint, and deliberate speech are hallmarks of strength. Weak men talk excessively because they lack control over themselves, seeking external affirmation instead of cultivating inner strength. The truly powerful man, the Stoic, understands that his energy is best spent on growth, discipline, and action. In a world filled with noise, the strongest voice is often the one that speaks the least but carries the most wisdom when it does. 10. Men suffer more from breakups than women. In the philosophy of Stoicism, emotional resilience is a fundamental principle, yet even the strongest of men are not immune to the pain of heartbreak. The idea that men suffer more from breakups than women aligns with both psychological observations and the Stoic understanding of human nature. While Stoicism teaches detachment from external circumstances, it does not advocate emotional suppression. Rather, it encourages men to acknowledge their pain, analyze it rationally, and emerge stronger through self-discipline and perspective. Men often internalize their emotions, conditioned by societal expectations to be pillars of strength and composure. Unlike women, who are generally more encouraged to seek emotional support from friends and express their sorrow openly, men frequently suppress their grief. The Stoics would argue that suppressing emotion is not true strength. Instead, it is a form of avoidance that leads to prolonged suffering. Seneca, a prominent Stoic philosopher, emphasized that one must confront suffering directly and transform it into wisdom. A man who denies his pain is not mastering himself, he is enslaving himself to unprocessed emotions. Furthermore, the Stoic view of suffering highlights that attachment is often the root of emotional turmoil. Marcus Aurelius stated, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." A breakup is an external event, yet the pain it causes is internal and largely self-inflicted by expectations, regrets, and perceived loss of identity. Men who build their sense of worth upon a relationship may feel an existential void when it ends. This is why some suffer longer than women, who often have more emotional coping mechanisms in place. The Stoic response, therefore, is not to ignore the pain but to reinterpret it, seeing loss not as devastation but as an opportunity for self-reflection and growth. Another aspect that exacerbates male suffering is the illusion of control. Many men believe they can fix a broken relationship or win back a lost love through action. The Stoics, however, remind us that we do not control other people's choices, only our own responses. Epictetus taught that a wise man does not despair over things outside his control, for doing so is an act of self-imposed suffering. A breakup, while painful, is a lesson in letting go, reinforcing the need for internal stability rather than reliance on external validation. In the end, the pain of a breakup is not an indictment of a man's weakness but an opportunity to practice true Stoic discipline. It is a test of his ability to accept change, to cultivate inner resilience, and to find meaning beyond loss. By shifting focus from grief to self-improvement, a man can transform heartbreak into a stepping stone toward wisdom and emotional mastery. As the Stoics taught, suffering is inevitable, but how we respond to it defines our character. The strongest men are not those who avoid pain but those who face it, learn from it, and emerge better for having endured it. 11. If everyone likes you, then you have a problem. If everyone likes you, then you have a problem. At first glance, this statement may seem counterintuitive. Shouldn't universal approval be a sign of success? From a Stoic perspective, the answer is no. True strength, integrity, and wisdom do not come from being liked by all but from living according to virtue and reason, regardless of external validation. Stoicism teaches that external opinions are beyond our control. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us that we should concern ourselves with what is within our power, our thoughts, actions, and character. Seeking approval from everyone places our sense of self-worth in the hands of others, making us vulnerable to their whims, judgments, and expectations. A man who molds himself to fit the desires of all will inevitably lose himself in the process. Moreover, if everyone approves of you, it likely means you are not standing for anything significant. Strong individuals who hold firm to their principles will always encounter opposition. Socrates, one of the greatest thinkers in history, was condemned to death not because he was weak or misguided, but because he challenged conventional thinking and sought truth. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote extensively in his meditations about the futility of pleasing the masses. He recognized that public opinion is fickle and that true contentment comes from living in accordance with virtue, not from superficial popularity. To be liked by everyone requires compromise, often at the expense of authenticity. If you are constantly adjusting your views, behavior, or words to satisfy those around you, then you are not living for yourself but for others. This is a betrayal of your own values. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, warned against seeking the approval of the crowd, as it often leads to mediocrity and self-deception. He urged individuals to walk their own path, even if it meant walking alone. Furthermore, universal approval suggests a lack of conviction. People respect those who stand firm in their beliefs, not those who sway with the tide of popular opinion. A man who tries to please everyone will never inspire respect, only passive acceptance. Worse still, those who seek universal approval often become easy to manipulate, as they fear confrontation and rejection more than they value their own integrity. The path of virtue, wisdom, and self-mastery is not one of universal acceptance. It requires the courage to make unpopular decisions, to speak truth even when it is inconvenient, and to act rightly regardless of external pressures. The Stoics understood that true peace comes not from being liked but from being principled. If you live a life of integrity, some will admire you, others will resent you, but you will be free from the chains of seeking approval. So if everyone likes you, reflect deeply. Have you sacrificed your values to maintain their favor? Have you chosen comfort over truth? The Stoic answer is clear: do not seek to be liked by all, seek instead to be right, to be virtuous, and to be true to yourself. 12. A woman who has been with another man may have a slightly different smile. In Stoic philosophy, the focus is always on perception, control, and the nature of human emotions. The idea that a woman who has been with another man might have a slightly different smile invites an examination of attachment, expectation, and the limits of our influence over others. A Stoic would approach the statement not with jealousy, insecurity, or suspicion, but with clarity, reason, and an understanding of human nature. First, we must acknowledge that people are shaped by experiences, and relationships inevitably leave marks on a person. The way a person smiles, speaks, or even reacts to certain situations is influenced by past interactions. A Stoic recognizes that nothing in life is permanent. Relationships evolve, people change, and emotions fluctuate. If a woman's smile carries a different energy due to past experiences, it is neither a betrayal nor a sign of deception. It is merely a reflection of the impermanence of human connections. A weak mind, driven by insecurity, may obsess over what that smile represents. Is it guilt? Longing? A hidden memory? These concerns are distractions from what truly matters, our own internal stability. A Stoic does not waste energy trying to control the thoughts, emotions, or past of another person. Instead, the wise man focuses on his own virtue, his own composure, and his own ability to navigate relationships with dignity and self-respect. The fear of change is an illusion that many people struggle with. We desire constancy in our partners, in our relationships, and in our lives. However, the Stoics remind us that the only certainty in life is change. Expecting a person to remain untouched by their past is as futile as expecting the sea to remain still. A Stoic would view this evolving smile not as a threat, but as a simple, neutral reality, one that is neither good nor bad, only different. Another critical aspect of Stoicism is understanding that suffering comes not from external events, but from our judgments about those events. If a man feels discomfort when he notices a subtle change in a woman's expression, it is not the smile itself that causes pain, it is his interpretation of it. He may attach meanings that do not exist, project his insecurities, or let jealousy cloud his judgment. The solution is to detach from these emotional impulses and remain rooted in logic and virtue. The only true power we have in relationships, as in all aspects of life, is how we choose to react. A Stoic man understands that his worth is not determined by another person's past, nor should his peace be disturbed by it. Instead of questioning the authenticity of a woman's smile, he focuses on being a man of character, one whose own presence brings clarity, strength, and serenity. In the end, Wisdom lies in embracing reality as it is. A woman's smile, shaped by past experiences, is merely a reminder of the impermanence of all things. To a Stoic, this is neither troubling nor significant. The only thing that truly matters is how we uphold our own virtue in response to the ever-changing world around us. 13. Don't share too much. In the philosophy of Stoicism, the principle of discretion holds great significance. The idea that one should not share too much is deeply rooted in the Stoic belief that true strength lies in self-mastery, restraint, and the ability to navigate life with wisdom. Oversharing, whether of emotions, personal struggles, or future plans, can often lead to unnecessary vulnerabilities and external influences that disrupt one's inner peace. A Stoic understands that not all listeners have good intentions. While some may offer support, others may use one's openness against them, either through gossip, manipulation, or silent judgment. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, emphasized the importance of guarding one's thoughts and emotions, keeping them within one's control rather than exposing them to the unpredictable reactions of others. A person who shares too much relinquishes control over their narrative and opens themselves up to external forces that may not align with their best interests. Furthermore, Stoicism teaches that inner strength is built through self-reliance and resilience. Epictetus, another great Stoic thinker, taught that one should focus on what is within their control and disregard what lies beyond it. When one overshares, they risk seeking validation or sympathy from others, thus allowing external opinions to dictate their self-worth. Instead of depending on others for reassurance, a Stoic cultivates an internal sense of confidence and stability, ensuring that their emotional well-being is not swayed by external factors. Another risk of oversharing is the exposure of one's plans and ambitions to unnecessary scrutiny. Seneca warned against allowing external forces to interfere with one's goals. When people reveal too much about their intentions, they invite doubt, competition, and even sabotage. Silence, on the other hand, grants freedom to act without external pressure, to move forward without unnecessary interference, and to build without the noise of outside voices. Additionally, speaking excessively dilutes the weight of one's words. A man who speaks too much often finds his words lose their value. A Stoic believes in measured speech, speaking only when necessary, and with purpose. By keeping one's words deliberate and meaningful, one commands more respect and attention when they do choose to speak. Lastly, the discipline of withholding unnecessary information fosters a sense of mystery and self-control. A Stoic values composure, understanding that not everything needs to be shared, nor does every emotion require an audience. Restraint is a form of power. It keeps one's thoughts private, one's plans protected, and one's mind unburdened by the reactions of others. In conclusion, the Stoic approach to life favors measured speech, guarded thoughts, and selective sharing. By embracing discretion, one gains control over their emotions, their interactions, and ultimately, their own destiny. A wise person understands that not everything needs to be said, and sometimes, the greatest power lies in silence. 14. Women are also curious about men's size. In the grand scheme of human interactions, curiosity about physical attributes is natural. Both men and women, driven by biological instincts and societal conditioning, take interest in the physical traits of potential partners. However, from a Stoic perspective, this curiosity, such as women's interest in a man's size, should be acknowledged for what it is, a fleeting, external concern that holds no true weight in determining a person's character or value. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In this context, a man's reaction to societal curiosity about his physicality defines his character far more than the curiosity itself. If a man allows himself to be consumed by anxiety over such matters, he relinquishes his inner peace and self-control to external forces. True Stoic wisdom lies in recognizing that self-worth is not dictated by the judgments or superficial interests of others but by one's own virtues, discipline, and strength of mind. Furthermore, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. If a man seeks validation from external attributes rather than cultivating inner excellence, he becomes a prisoner of others' opinions. The Stoic path teaches that external factors, including physical traits, are beyond our control. Instead of fixating on them, one should focus on developing wisdom, courage, and integrity, qualities that outlast fleeting curiosity and form the foundation of genuine attraction. Another key Stoic principle is distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. A man cannot control the innate curiosity of others, nor should he attempt to. What he can control is his own response. A secure man, grounded in Stoic philosophy, does not seek to impress through physicality alone but through his actions, character, and mental fortitude. In contrast, one who obsesses over how others perceive him is bound to suffer unnecessary distress, as he places his happiness in the hands of external validation rather than in his own reasoned judgment. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, warns against the dangers of vanity and the pursuit of trivial concerns. He states, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." In the same way, a man who craves validation from women based on physicality is impoverished in spirit. His energy would be better spent cultivating wisdom, learning, and self-discipline, qualities that not only make him more attractive but also make him impervious to the judgments of others. Ultimately, a Stoic man understands that curiosity about physicality is just one of many fleeting concerns in the vast complexities of human attraction. He does not fear it, nor does he seek to manipulate it. Instead, he remains steadfast in his pursuit of virtue, indifferent to external opinions that do not shape his essence. True confidence comes not from meeting external expectations but from the unwavering knowledge that one's worth is defined by inner strength, not by the transient curiosities of others. 15. Orgasm once a day can help reduce the risk of prostate cancer. From a Stoic perspective, the idea that achieving orgasm once a day can help reduce the risk of prostate cancer is not merely a statement about physical health, it is also a reflection on discipline, self-awareness, and the balance between indulgence and moderation. Stoicism teaches that we must master our impulses rather than be mastered by them, and understanding the role of sexual health within this framework is essential. The body is a natural part of existence, neither to be worshipped nor neglected. A Stoic does not indulge in excess simply for pleasure's sake, but neither does he ignore the needs of his physical form. If science suggests that regular release promotes well-being, then a rational man acknowledges this without shame or excess. He approaches it with the same practical mindset that he would apply to exercise, nutrition, or rest. Just as he would not overeat to the point of gluttony or starve himself into weakness, he does not let sexual urges dictate his life, nor does he suppress them to his own detriment. Furthermore, the Stoic recognizes that the body is temporary, a vessel to be maintained with wisdom rather than ruled by fleeting desires. The ancient Stoics, such as Seneca and Epictetus, advised against being enslaved by pleasure, warning that he who chases after it is ultimately owned by it. However, this does not mean rejection of all pleasure, it means measured engagement with it, using reason as a guide rather than impulse. If a practice contributes to long-term health and vitality, it is rational to include it within a disciplined life. Beyond the physical, this discussion also touches upon the psychological and emotional aspects of masculinity. Many men are conditioned to see sexuality through the lens of shame or conquest, but a Stoic sees it as neither. Instead, he views it as another facet of existence that should be understood and controlled, not as a source of weakness but as a function of nature. If sexual health is ignored due to misplaced guilt or repression, the consequence is not virtue but imbalance. A man who denies his biological realities does not become stronger, he only blinds himself to truth. At the core of Stoicism is the pursuit of eudaimonia, or flourishing, which requires living in accordance with reason and nature. Recognizing that sexual health plays a role in overall well-being is an extension of this philosophy. It is not a matter of chasing pleasure but of ensuring that the mind and body function harmoniously. If a simple act can prevent disease and contribute to a longer, healthier life, then it should be approached with the same rational consideration as any other health practice. Ultimately, the Stoic does not allow himself to be consumed by desire, nor does he fear it. He embraces knowledge, applies wisdom, and moves forward with purpose. In the end, the key to a strong and virtuous life is not denial or excess but understanding and control. 16. Mastery over desire, the path to true freedom. In the philosophy of Stoicism, the ability to control one's desires is not a mere act of self-restraint but the foundation of true power. A man who masters his impulses is a man who commands his own destiny. The world constantly tempts us with fleeting pleasures, but the Stoic man understands that surrendering to unchecked desires is a form of slavery. True strength is not found in indulgence but in discipline. Desire, especially in its raw and uncontrolled form, can cloud judgment, weaken resolve, and lead a man astray. Seneca warns us that the greatest empire is to be emperor of oneself. A man who is driven by his urges, whether for wealth, pleasure, or validation, loses control over his own mind. He becomes a puppet, reacting to external temptations rather than acting with deliberate wisdom. The Stoic man, however, is different. He recognizes that mastery over desire leads to clarity, independence, and inner peace. Consider a man who is ruled by his desires. He chases fleeting pleasure, jumping from one indulgence to the next, always seeking more but never finding satisfaction. His life is dictated by his urges, and his sense of self is fragile, dependent on external gratification. Now, contrast this with the man who has mastered himself. He chooses when to engage and when to abstain. He is not swayed by temptation because he understands that true fulfillment does not come from excess but from self-control. The Stoics believed that pleasure, though not inherently evil, should never be the guiding force of a man's life. Epictetus taught that we should train ourselves to desire only what is within our control. The body's cravings are natural, but a wise man does not let them govern him. Instead, he uses reason to decide when to act and when to withhold. This discipline extends beyond physical desire. It shapes the way a man approaches power, ambition, and relationships. A man who masters his desires is not cold or emotionless, he is simply free. He does not need to prove himself through conquest, nor does he seek validation through indulgence. He walks his path with quiet confidence, knowing that his choices are his own. His strength is not loud or boastful but steady and unshakable. He does not run from pleasure, but neither does he bow to it. In modern society, where instant gratification is encouraged, this level of control is rare. But the man who cultivates it stands apart. He is trusted, respected, and, above all, at peace with himself. His life is not dictated by fleeting impulses but by reasoned decisions. And in mastering his desires, he has mastered his life. For in the end, as the Stoics remind us, the man who controls himself controls the world. 17. Beyond beauty, the Stoic understanding of makeup. A woman, after a long and exhausting day, takes out her makeup kit. To an outsider, this act may seem superficial, merely an effort to enhance her beauty. But to a Stoic observer, there is something much deeper at play. Makeup, like many rituals in life, is not always about appearances, it is often about control, transformation, and resilience. The Stoics teach us that externals, how we look, how we are perceived, are beyond our ultimate control. What we do control, however, is our response to the world, our ability to shape ourselves mentally and emotionally, regardless of external circumstances. When a woman applies makeup at the end of a wearying day, she is not just painting her face, she is reclaiming her sense of self. She is reminding herself that despite the exhaustion, the criticisms, or the burdens she carries, she still has the power to define who she is and how she presents herself to the world. Makeup, in this sense, is not vanity, it is armor. It is the decision to rise above fatigue, to refuse to let the world see her as merely tired or defeated. It is a quiet act of defiance against chaos, a ritual that reaffirms her inner strength. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." A difficult day can leave a person feeling small, unworthy, or invisible. The process of putting on makeup is, for many, a way of telling themselves, "I am still here. I am still me." It is an act of self-respect, a statement that despite all external circumstances, one can still choose to show up fully. In a Stoic sense, this is not about seeking validation from others. A truly resilient woman does not wear makeup to be admired but to align her external self with the inner strength she cultivates. It is no different from a warrior sharpening his blade before battle or a philosopher taking time to reflect in solitude. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The world may drain her, circumstances may weigh on her, but she still retains the power to present herself with dignity. True beauty, from a Stoic perspective, does not lie in perfect symmetry or flawless skin, but in composure, self-command, and the ability to face the world on one's own terms. A woman's choice to apply makeup, even after exhaustion, is not an act of weakness, but an act of quiet strength. It is a reminder that she is not merely subject to the events of her day, she is still in control of how she moves forward. So, when she looks in the mirror, finishing the last touch of color on her lips, she is not just seeing her reflection, she is seeing her resilience. And that, more than anything, is the true essence of beauty. 18. Respect those who dare to tell you the truth even when it hurts. In a world where flattery is abundant but honesty is rare, those who dare to speak the truth even when it wounds are the ones we should hold closest. The Stoics teach us that truth is not an enemy but a mirror, revealing what we must confront to grow. To reject the truth is to reject our own progress, while to embrace it, no matter how painful, is the path to wisdom and strength. It is easy to surround ourselves with people who tell us what we want to hear, who smooth over our flaws, and who shield us from discomfort. But these people do us no real service. They may offer us momentary comfort, but they leave us blind to our own weaknesses. A friend who lies to preserve our feelings is no better than an enemy who deceives us for personal gain. Both keep us from the reality we must face. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, reminds us, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." The key here is humility, the willingness to accept correction, to listen when someone points out our flaws, and to use their words as a tool for self-improvement rather than an excuse for resentment. Yes, truth can sting. When someone tells us we are failing, when they point out our mistakes, or when they expose the gaps in our character, our first instinct is to resist. Our pride flares up, our ego feels attacked, and we may want to distance ourselves from that person. But this is the moment when we must practice true Stoicism. Instead of reacting with anger, we must ask ourselves, is what they are saying true? If it is, then we should be grateful, not offended. If it is not, then we have lost nothing. Seneca wrote, "A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is." If we view the truth as an attack, we suffer. If we view it as an opportunity, we grow. Those who tell us hard truths do so because they care not about our comfort, but about our evolution. The friend who warns us of our arrogance, the mentor who criticizes our laziness, the partner who challenges our self-deception, these are the people who sharpen us like a blade. They do not flatter us into stagnation, they push us toward greatness. To be truly strong, we must not only endure the truth but seek it out. We must value those who refuse to lie to us, even when it would be easier for them to do so. We must listen with an open heart, knowing that the harshest truths are often the most valuable lessons. So, when someone tells you a truth that stings, do not turn away. Look them in the eye, thank them, and use it to forge yourself into something stronger. Because in the end, the world is full of those who will tell you what you want to hear. But only a few will tell you what you need to hear. And those few, they are worth more than gold. 19. Having sex at least 3 times a week makes you look 7 years younger. The idea that having sex at least 3 times a week can make you look younger by up to 7 years may seem like a modern, scientific observation, but it aligns deeply with Stoic principles of maintaining balance, discipline, and a harmonious relationship with one's body. While the Stoics were not hedonists, they did not reject physical pleasure outright. Instead, they sought to understand it, control it, and use it wisely to enhance life rather than be enslaved by it. At its core, this idea speaks to the fundamental Stoic belief in living according to nature. The human body is designed for movement, connection, and intimacy. Sexual activity, when approached with wisdom and intention, is not merely a source of pleasure but a practice that strengthens both the body and the mind. Science tells us that regular sex reduces stress, improves circulation, releases beneficial hormones, and enhances sleep, all of which contribute to longevity and a youthful appearance. But from a Stoic perspective, it is not just the act itself that matters, it is the attitude with which we engage in it. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This applies to our physical well-being as much as our emotional state. If sex is approached as an indulgence, an escape, or a mindless pursuit of pleasure, it may lead to imbalance. However, if it is embraced with mindfulness, respect, and discipline, it becomes a practice that enhances one's life rather than controls it. To experience the full benefits of intimacy, one must be present, not lost in fleeting desires, not using it as a means to escape problems, but fully engaged in the moment. A Stoic does not seek sex merely for self-gratification but as a way to foster connection, to strengthen the body, and to cultivate a sense of well-being that aligns with nature's design. Epictetus teaches us that it is not things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about those things. Many perceive aging as a slow decline, an inevitable loss of vitality, but the truth is that how we live determines how we age. Regular, healthy intimacy is a reminder that youth is not just about age, it is about energy, engagement, and a commitment to taking care of oneself. Of course, Stoicism also warns against excess. Just as one should not indulge in food to the point of gluttony, one should not seek sex as an addiction or compulsion. The key is moderation and purpose. A Stoic does not become a slave to physical pleasure, but neither do they reject it when it serves their well-being. Thus, if having sex 3 times a week contributes to a longer, healthier, and more youthful life, the Stoic would not scoff at it. They would acknowledge it as a natural, beneficial part of existence, one that should be embraced with wisdom, care, and intention. Because true youth is not just in the body, it is in the mind, in the spirit, and in the way one chooses to live. 20. Men are attracted to younger women. The Stoic perspective on why men are attracted to younger women. Attraction is often assumed to be a matter of personal preference, but from a Stoic perspective, it is rooted in nature and logic. The idea that men are generally attracted to younger women is not merely a cultural construct but a reflection of deeper biological and psychological patterns. While modern discourse may frame this preference as superficial or problematic, Stoicism encourages us to approach it with reason, not emotion, examining the truth without judgment and understanding our instincts without being controlled by them. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations, what happens to each of us is ordered. It is part of the pattern. Accept what is given. This means that human attraction is not arbitrary, it follows a natural order. From an evolutionary standpoint, youth in women has been associated with fertility, vitality, and the ability to nurture life. This is not a conscious calculation but an instinct deeply embedded in human nature. The Stoics did not deny nature, they sought to align with it while maintaining self-control and wisdom. However, while men may feel drawn to youth, Stoicism teaches that acting on impulse without wisdom leads to ruin. Epictetus warned, "If you wish to be free, do not desire anything that depends on another." Youth fades, beauty changes, and to build one's desires solely on fleeting qualities is to set oneself up for disappointment. A Stoic does not allow attraction to dictate his actions blindly, he remains in control of his mind, seeking not just what is pleasing but what is meaningful. The true Stoic does not chase youth for the sake of vanity. He does not seek a younger partner to boost his ego or as a symbol of status. Instead, he understands that attraction is a force, but it must be tempered with virtue. He values character, intelligence, and compatibility over mere appearances. He recognizes that while youth may initially captivate, it is wisdom and depth that sustain true connection. Seneca teaches us that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Many men, driven by illusions of lost youth or societal expectations, believe they must pursue younger women to feel powerful or relevant. But this is a mistake. A Stoic does not seek external validation, he builds himself from within. He understands that true fulfillment comes not from chasing what is temporary but from cultivating his own strength, purpose, and integrity. Attraction is natural, but attachment to impermanent things leads to suffering. A Stoic acknowledges his instincts but does not become a prisoner to them. He does not resist nature, but he also does not let it control him. He values youth, but he cherishes wisdom more. And in doing so, he transcends mere desire, choosing not just what is attractive, but what is truly good. 21. If a woman does not have sex for a long time, she may age faster. The Stoics teach us that everything in life follows a natural order. To deny nature is to deny truth, and to deny truth is to invite suffering. If it is true that a woman who abstains from intimacy for a long period may age faster, then this is not a matter of mere speculation, it is a reflection of how the mind and body are interconnected. The body thrives when it is in harmony, and when it is deprived of something essential, imbalance follows. Seneca reminds us, life is long if you know how to use it. This means that aging is not merely about time but about how we live. If intimacy is a source of vitality, emotional well-being, and hormonal balance, then avoiding it is not simply a matter of personal choice, it has consequences. It is not just the physical act that sustains youth, it is the emotional connection, the release of stress, the deep sense of being alive. When a woman removes this from her life, whether by circumstance or choice, she may begin to feel disconnected from the energy that keeps her youthful. However, a Stoic would not be a slave to the fear of aging. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. If intimacy is absent, a woman must cultivate vitality in other ways. Passion, adventure, purpose, these things keep the spirit young. The mistake would be to believe that youth is only tied to physical pleasure. True youthfulness is found in movement, in engagement, in a mind that remains sharp and a heart that remains open. That said, Stoicism does not encourage unnecessary deprivation. The philosophy does not promote suppression but balance. If intimacy brings health, happiness, and longevity, then rejecting it out of fear, past trauma, or rigid beliefs is not wisdom, it is self-denial. Just as the body needs nourishment, the mind needs stimulation, and the soul needs connection. But the most dangerous trap is seeking intimacy merely as a way to escape the fear of aging. A Stoic does not act out of desperation but out of reason. She does not chase relationships to avoid wrinkles or loneliness but embraces intimacy as a natural part of life. She understands that beauty is not merely skin deep, it is the radiance of a fulfilled life, a life in which she does not resist what is natural but welcomes it with wisdom. In the end, the Stoic woman does not fear time. She does not cling to youth, nor does she mourn its passing. She understands that intimacy is a gift, but not the only source of her vitality. She chooses to engage in life fully, to nourish her body and spirit, and in doing so, she remains forever young not just in appearance, but in soul. 22. Public speaking and fear. Fear is the great enemy of reason. The Stoics understood this deeply, teaching that most fears are illusions, shadows cast by the mind rather than realities of the world. The idea that many men fear public speaking more than death itself is a perfect example of this irrationality. To a Stoic, this fear is not just a weakness but a failure to recognize what is truly within our control. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The fear of public speaking arises not from the act itself, but from the anticipation of judgment. Men fear looking foolish, stumbling over their words, or losing the respect of their peers. But these outcomes are not within their control. What is within their control is their preparation, their mindset, and their ability to face discomfort with composure. Seneca writes, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This applies perfectly to public speaking. Before stepping onto the stage, the mind creates worst-case scenarios, forgetting words, being mocked, feeling exposed. But how often do these things truly happen? Even when they do, they rarely carry the catastrophic consequences we imagine. The fear is not of speaking, it is of embarrassment. And embarrassment, to a Stoic, is nothing but misplaced vanity. Death, on the other hand, is certain. It is final. It is beyond fear because it is beyond control. And yet, many men would rather face mortality than a crowd. This reveals a misunderstanding of what is truly significant. The judgment of others is fleeting. A misstep on stage is forgotten in days. But the ability to conquer fear, to master oneself, leaves a lasting mark. A man who faces his fears gains power over them. A man who flees from them remains their prisoner. Epictetus reminds us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. The path to mastery requires failure. No great speaker was born confident. No wise man reached his wisdom without mistakes. The fear of public speaking is an opportunity, not a curse. It is a test of courage, a challenge to our ego, a chance to exercise the very virtues Stoicism teaches: discipline, resilience, and indifference to external approval. A Stoic man does not ask, "What if they laugh at me?" He asks, "What if I never grow because of fear?" He does not shrink from discomfort, he welcomes it as a sharpening stone for his character. And when he steps onto that stage, his voice steady, his heart unshaken, he proves that fear, like all things external, only has power when we allow it. 23. Men are attracted to women with bigger butts for evolutionary reasons. Attraction is often thought of as a matter of personal preference, yet when viewed through the lens of evolution, it reveals itself to be something much deeper, an instinct shaped by nature for survival. The idea that men are naturally drawn to women with larger hips and buttocks is not a matter of superficial desire but an ancient, biological mechanism tied to the continuation of life itself. A Stoic, however, would not be content to leave this explanation at the level of instinct alone. Epictetus taught that while we may be shaped by nature, we are not its slaves. He reminds us, it is not events that disturb people, but their judgments concerning them. Attraction is not a mere reflex, it is a perception that can be examined, understood, and, if necessary, controlled. From an evolutionary standpoint, a woman with fuller hips and a well-defined lower body signals fertility and health. Studies have shown that the waist-to-hip ratio plays a significant role in perceived attractiveness, as it suggests better childbearing potential. This preference is not a conscious decision, it is deeply embedded in the male psyche, passed down through countless generations. Yet, the Stoic man does not let himself be ruled by primitive impulses. Seneca warns us, he who is a slave to his desires is more wretched than a slave in chains. While men may feel an instinctive pull toward women with certain physical traits, the wise man recognizes that attraction must be tempered by reason. To desire a woman solely for her physical attributes is to mistake the shell for the essence. True beauty, from a Stoic perspective, lies not in the body but in the character, the virtues, and the mind. Marcus Aurelius writes, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." A man obsessed with external beauty alone will find himself chasing an illusion, forever unsatisfied, forever seeking more. The disciplined man, however, understands that nature has given him these instincts for a purpose, but it is his mind that must guide him in how he responds to them. He may appreciate the beauty of a woman's form, but he does not let it control his judgment of her worth. In the end, attraction is neither good nor bad, it simply is. The Stoic man acknowledges the evolutionary forces at play but refuses to be ruled by them. He does not deny desire, but he does not let it blind him. He seeks a partner not just for the body she inhabits but for the mind she carries within it. For while beauty may fade, virtue endures. And it is in virtue, not mere appearance, that true value lies. 24. Sex is not just pleasure, it is connection. In a world that often glorifies fleeting pleasure, sex is frequently reduced to a mere act of physical gratification. Yet, for the Stoic, such a view is dangerously incomplete. While pleasure is an undeniable aspect of sex, its true significance lies beyond momentary indulgence. It is an opportunity for profound human connection. Seneca reminds us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Many chase physical pleasure, believing it to be the ultimate reward, only to find themselves feeling emptier than before. Why? Because pleasure alone is an illusion, it vanishes the moment it is grasped. True fulfillment comes not from chasing pleasure but from understanding the deeper purpose of our actions. Sex, when approached with wisdom, is not just about the body, it is about the bond between two souls. At its core, Stoicism teaches that all human actions should align with reason and virtue. If sex is pursued solely for hedonistic pleasure, without intention or meaning, it becomes a hollow act, something that enslaves rather than liberates. Epictetus warns us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The man who views sex as nothing more than a rush of sensations is not in control of himself, he is at the mercy of his desires, forever seeking more, forever unsatisfied. But when sex is understood as a form of connection, it transforms into something meaningful. It is not merely the union of two bodies but the merging of trust, vulnerability, and understanding. Marcus Aurelius writes, "What we do now echoes in eternity." Every act, especially those involving another person's body, mind, and emotions, has consequences. To treat sex as nothing more than pleasure is to strip it of its power. To treat it as a shared experience of closeness is to elevate it to something greater. In relationships, true intimacy does not come from physicality alone. It is built on honesty, mutual respect, and shared purpose. A Stoic does not seek connection in the temporary highs of the flesh but in the enduring strength of companionship. He understands that love is not found in passion alone but in the depth of two people choosing to be present for one another, not just in moments of pleasure but in moments of struggle, growth, and silence. Thus, sex is not merely an escape from reality, it is a reflection of it. The way we approach intimacy mirrors the way we approach life. Are we mindless seekers of pleasure, or are we thoughtful cultivators of connection? A Stoic chooses the latter. He understands that while the body may hunger for sensation, the soul hungers for something deeper, a connection that, when nurtured with wisdom and virtue, can withstand the test of time. 25. Fu nu kao katsuzak nan truok kai then mat. In a world where desires and emotions often dictate actions, the need for validation before intimacy is not a sign of weakness but an inherent part of human nature, especially for women. From a Stoic perspective, this desire for validation is neither irrational nor excessive. Rather, it is deeply rooted in the principles of self-awareness, security, and emotional wisdom. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "Very little is needed to make a happy life, it is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Women seeking validation before becoming intimate is not about seeking external approval in a shallow sense, it is about aligning their choices with their inner values. True intimacy is not simply a physical act, it is a moment of profound vulnerability. To share one's body is to share one's essence, and no rational person should do so without a sense of trust, security, and emotional clarity. From an evolutionary standpoint, women have always sought safety before closeness. This is not just about physical protection but emotional security as well. Seneca said, "We should every night call ourselves to an account. What infirmity have I mastered today? What passions opposed? What temptation resisted? What virtue acquired?" This introspective approach applies to intimacy. A woman who seeks validation before allowing herself to be vulnerable is practicing wisdom. She is ensuring that her emotions are not clouding her judgment. She is asking herself, is this connection genuine? Does this person see me for who I am, beyond a momentary pleasure? In a society where superficiality is often mistaken for connection, it is easy to dismiss the need for validation as insecurity. However, a Stoic understands that seeking validation is not about seeking control over another's emotions but about confirming that one is making a rational decision. Epictetus teaches, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. A woman who seeks validation is not asking for mere words, she is asking for proof of respect, honesty, and sincerity. She is not controlled by impulse but by a measured, thoughtful approach to intimacy. Furthermore, Stoicism emphasizes the idea that external things, beauty, attraction, even physical closeness, are fleeting. What remains is character. A woman does not seek validation because she lacks confidence, she seeks it because she understands that intimacy without understanding is empty. True intimacy is not about surrendering the body but about sharing the mind, the soul, and the heart. Thus, to those who dismiss this need for validation as unnecessary, Stoicism would counter with a simple truth: a wise person does not give themselves away carelessly. They measure, they reflect, and they choose with purpose. Women who seek confirmation before intimacy are not fragile, they are discerning. They are not seeking permission, they are seeking truth. And in that, they embody the very essence of Stoic wisdom, choosing not what is easy, but what is right. 26. Men do not need to chase, they attract. In a world that glorifies relentless pursuit of wealth, status, and relationships, the Stoic man understands a different truth. True power lies not in the chase but in attraction. A man who knows himself, who cultivates virtue, discipline, and purpose, does not need to run after others. He becomes a magnet, drawing the right people and opportunities toward him. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." A man who chases is a man who lacks inner peace, seeking fulfillment outside himself. He believes that by proving his worth, by running tirelessly after validation, he will be seen, accepted, or loved. But the truth is, attraction is not about proving, it is about being. A man who stands firm in his values, who shapes his life with wisdom and strength, naturally earns the respect and admiration of others. Chasing implies desperation, and desperation is the enemy of self-mastery. The Stoics teach that we should only concern ourselves with what is within our control: our actions, our mindset, our character. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. A man who is constantly chasing external approval has abandoned his internal compass. He becomes reactive rather than grounded, seeking rather than radiating. Attraction, on the other hand, comes from self-possession. A man who is at peace with himself, who does not seek but instead builds, who does not beg but instead refines himself, becomes irresistible. Women are drawn not to desperation but to confidence, confidence that is not loud or boastful, but quiet, unshakable, and real. It is the man who does not need to chase who is pursued, for he exudes the kind of energy that cannot be faked, calm, purposeful, and secure. Seneca tells us, it is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. The man who chases allows himself to be ruled by external forces, but the man who attracts masters himself. He does not seek validation through conquest but finds fulfillment in his journey, his discipline, his mission. He does not fear rejection because he understands that his worth is not determined by whether someone else sees it. It is inherent, built through his own actions. To live by Stoic principles is to understand that all things come in their time. A man who is strong, focused, and unwavering does not beg for attention, he commands it through his presence, his integrity, and his unwavering sense of purpose. Women, like all people, are drawn to strength, not the aggressive, performative kind, but the quiet, assured kind that signals deep inner stability. Thus, the choice is simple: be the man who chases, or be the man who attracts. The former is exhausting, uncertain, and fragile. The latter is steady, confident, and true. The Stoic man knows that he does not need to pursue, he only needs to be, and in doing so, everything else falls into place. 27-29. Master yourself, master your life. The greatest battle a man will ever fight is not against the world, but within himself. The Stoics understood that external events are beyond our control, but what we do control. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions determines the quality of our lives. If you can master yourself, if you can rule your emotions instead of being ruled by them, you will not only find peace but also power. The man who controls himself controls his destiny. Seneca once said, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." A man who lacks self-control is at the mercy of circumstances. He is tossed like a leaf in the wind, reacting impulsively, allowing anger, fear, and desire to dictate his actions. But a man who has learned to govern himself moves with purpose. He does not let insults provoke him, nor failure defeat him. He remains steady, unshaken by the storms of life, because he knows that his true power lies in his ability to remain composed. Emotions are natural, but being enslaved by them is a choice. A Stoic man does not deny his feelings, but he also does not let them dominate him. He understands that emotions are fleeting, and that acting on impulse often leads to regret. Epictetus reminds us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The man who cannot control his anger will destroy his relationships. The man who cannot resist temptation will never be disciplined. The man who lets fear dictate his actions will never achieve greatness. But the man who controls himself, who chooses reason over reaction, discipline over indulgence, becomes unshakable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The world will throw chaos in your path. People will insult you, temptations will arise, setbacks will occur. But none of these have the power to control you unless you allow them to. Your true enemy is never the external world, it is the undisciplined mind that reacts instead of responds. When you master your emotions, you master every situation, because no one can take away your ability to choose how you respond. Self-control is not just about resisting temptation or suppressing anger, it is about directing your energy toward what truly matters. It is about choosing patience over frustration, discipline over distraction, and wisdom over impulse. It is about making decisions based on long-term vision rather than short-term gratification. When you practice this, life becomes simpler. You no longer waste time on petty conflicts, destructive habits, or unnecessary suffering. You move with clarity, purpose, and power. In the end, control over yourself is the only control that truly matters. The world is unpredictable, but the disciplined mind remains steady. The man who can govern his own emotions, his own desires, and his own actions is the man who will shape his own destiny. Master yourself, and you will master your life. Stoic lessons from psychological truths about women. The article discusses various psychological truths about women, but through the lens of Stoicism, we can extract deeper lessons about self-control, awareness of reality, and inner strength. First and foremost, a core principle of Stoicism is to focus on what we can control rather than trying to change or fully understand things beyond our grasp. Many men feel confused in relationships because they are constantly trying to decode women's thoughts instead of focusing on self-improvement. A Stoic man does not chase external validation, he concentrates on building his internal value. When we stop seeking approval, we begin to attract what is truly aligned with us. The article also emphasizes that women, like men, are governed by instincts, emotions, and societal influences. A Stoic does not complain about this or attempt to change human nature. Instead, he accepts reality and learns to adapt without being overwhelmed by emotions. If a woman changes her attitude, it does not necessarily mean she has bad intentions. Sometimes, it is simply a natural psychological reaction. Rather than reacting negatively, we should observe and adjust our behavior with composure. Another key lesson is emotional control. Society often teaches men to be strong by suppressing their emotions, but true strength comes from understanding and mastering one's emotions. Studies suggest that men suffer more after a breakup because they do not have the same emotional outlets as women. A Stoic does not run away from pain, he accepts it as a part of life. He understands that suffering is not the problem, how we respond to it is what truly matters. Additionally, the article highlights how men tend to seek instant gratification through distractions like social media, pornography, or constant female attention. However, Stoicism reminds us that temporary pleasures never lead to long-term fulfillment. A truly strong man is one who can control his desires, focus on self-improvement, and set meaningful goals for his life. Finally, the most important lesson is that true power does not come from external factors but from inner stability. A Stoic man does not need to boast or prove himself to gain recognition. He quietly works, strengthens his will, and lives by his principles. When we control our minds, everything else in life naturally falls into place. Thank you for watching. I hope this message has touched your heart and brought meaning to your life. If you found this content valuable, please subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content. Like and share this video with your friends and family. Comment below to share your thoughts and experiences on this topic. See you in the next video.